Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everyone.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer insights and ideas for how emerging small and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can establish and grow their business.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean all aspects involved in establishing and growing brands across channels and platforms. On our show, we bring on guests that are brand founders, leaders, investors, as well as all kinds of suppliers to these emerging brands that are subject matter experts to share their unique insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please follow the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. Let's get to today's episode. Let me tell you a little bit about Agency Habitat. Agency Habitat is your one-stop shop for emerging brands. From packaging design to Shopify website development, from organic social content to connected TV spots, from brand activations to influencer programs, they offer everything your brand needs to succeed, all under one roof. Contact them at www.agencyhabitat.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of The Road to Retail. My, no matter how hard I lock the door, look who's here. It's Tracy Priest. How are you, Trace?
I'm good. I'm like a bad penny. I'm always showing up somewhere, Bruce, but great to see you.
No,
and I think we've got a fantastic episode today.
Yeah, no doubt we do. We met this gentleman at the SFA Winter Fancy Fair. Why don't you introduce our guest today, Tracy?
Absolutely. So we've got James Pippin, and James is the VP at Good Now CPG. So James, welcome to the show, and thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're excited about this episode, and I think our small emerging brand audience is going to love it. You've got a lot of good insight and a lot of good experience. So why don't we kick it off a little bit, and James, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to Good Now CPG.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Bruce, for having me. It's certainly an honor, and I appreciate it. And yeah, it's been, like many people, it's a long and twisted road filled with false starts and successes and a little bit of everything. But I got my start in the industry really working at New Belgium Brewery. I was a marketing person and a certified level 2 organoleptic beer taster. So you might think that as a 22-year-old, drinking a pint and a half of beer every day at 10 a.m. is exciting. I certainly did. I'd actually never had a beer before I started working there. So I got into the second round of interviews, and I thought, well, my goodness, I better try this. I'd been an athlete in college and just didn't partake. And so I got a 6-pack and I got a pizza, and quickly learned what alcohol tolerance was when when I did that for the first time. But it was a great experience, and since then I've had the opportunity to work on numerous small business growth companies. I've always been in small business. I've always been in business planning and launching of new enterprises. I've been the first employee at multiple companies, including self-checkout systems, vending, wine sales, beer sales, and in 2018, my ex-wife, Holly Goodnow, still runs a small company in the industry as well, and I started Good Now Foods, which we've since renamed to Good Now CPG. And she had been in the industry for a long time. She was the DPI rep for Sprouts. She had worked in overseas sales around the Pacific Rim, and so I had the chance to experience what it meant to be a broker from someone who was hiring them frequently. And then we saw an opportunity to perhaps improve upon that model. And so we did that. I've since bought her out of the company, and we're happily moved on. She has a great wife down in Southern California. I have a family and kids, and but we still stay in close touch. In fact, I saw her at Winter Fancy a couple times as well. So
Well,
that's the story.
that's great. So wait a minute, James. There's very few jobs that I'm positive I would be excellent at, but if you could send me a link to that beer tasting job, I'm pretty sure I would excel at that, and I have a lot of witnesses that would co-sign.
Ah,
Yeah.
nice.
Well, that's
James, do they
great.
take referrals?
I
Anyway.
mean, that's great. Obviously, you have no risk tolerance if you've been the first employee at many companies. So good for you. That's a rare breed. So as we dive in here, James, tell the audience of our emerging brand audience, they'll be interested to know the types of services Good Now CPG offers. So kind of level sets like, hey, this is what myself and my firm are doing for brands and companies every day.
hmm Yeah. Thank you. That's a great question. We really have four businesses. So we have what we call our agency, and this is an encompassing sales partnership with our brands to help their business grow. And so that means everything from participatory discussions where we're talking about pricing and margin or target accounts or distribution strategy or trade show strategy or multi-vertical strategy. How do I break into the airline industry? It could be anything. We can just share lots of topics, but it's also sales. It's pitching into accounts. It's doing the paperwork. It's distribution growth. It's graphic support. So the agency is really an all-encompassing service to help brands grow, and everybody's unique. So everybody has a different, growth path. It's very different if you have a couple million in the bank from private equity versus, 10,000 from, your cashed out 401k or whatever it is. So we just try to meet people where they're at and offer support for the stage of growth that they're in and the goals that they have. We also have an inside sales group. So we call out to independent accounts. We call several thousand a month. So this is a great service if you are looking to build out distribution in a region. Maybe you launch with KeHE in Dallas and, you don't know who all the KeHE accounts are, UNFI or Nassau Candy or any one of a number of different distributors. We can help you by calling these independents and saying, hey, this is James calling on behalf of Harmless Harvest Coconut Water, who's been one of our customers for a long time. We have a new blueberry coconut smoothie that we're introducing out. We're offering a buy one, get one deal for all of the accounts that are buying from the KEBC in Dallas. Is that something that you'd be interested in? So it can help you grow out the independent base. We also have a demo company, which has 15 or 20 great brand ambassadors, mainly around the Western US, but growing. And we can support at accounts like Central Market or Metropolitan Market or Market of Choice or Erewhon or, lots of these accounts where, some of the larger demo companies that do a great job, maybe they're not going to do 8 demos for you or 6 demos for you. Well, we can help with that. And then last, we have a technology division. So we've really tried to embrace technology as part of the evolving industry. It's not the old days where people just use the telephone to call their friend, the buyer at the store. It's new buyers are changing all the time. They want their forms done properly. They want their process followed. They want their portal filled out properly. So we've evolved our technology to support that with what I think is the industry's only CRM tool that comes prepackaged with contacts, account information, forms, and a whole suite of tools, category review calendars, so that you can do the submission part of this industry properly the first time. You don't have to bug a buyer week in, week out for a whole year. You can know who the right person is, know when they're reviewing the category, know what the right form is, fill it out properly, send it to them. Now the industry is a lot more efficient and professional. So that's our business.
So
From a big
one
picture.
follow-up before we dig in even deeper with Tracy, can you just give folks a sense of just how much paperwork there is? We had Greg Vetter on just recently, the founder of Tessame's salad dressing. and he and his brothers just kept charging forward through every red light. But he's like, man, when Whole Foods said they'd give us a shot, they handed us like 200 pages of stuff to fill out, and we had no idea what we were doing. But thanks to Google, they stumbled through it. So, talk a
Yeah.
little bit to people that might be thinking of, expanding or looking for a firm like yours. Maybe they're having success in a few stores where they can hand deliver things, or a DTC website, or the local farmers market. Talk about what
Yeah.
happens when you go from single A baseball, maybe up to triple A.
Which is a great way to start. And I think that's probably one of the things that scares me the most when I look at a new brand and they haven't done that sort of groundwork yet. And they're telling me how great everything is going to be, but they haven't actually field tested it with their local market or their local stores. And this is especially true if you don't have a big budget to work with. In that
Mm-hmm.
local market, your local farmers markets, your independent stores, your local chains, that's where you should make your mistakes. That's where you're going to get the most favors. That's where you're going to learn if your product has a place in the market or not. So I think that's a phenomenal place to start. Um, your question again was, I think that's an overlooked important step in this process that you just hit on. So I just wanted to
Well,
reemphasize it.
well, I think you touched on most of it there, James. It was really just to give people a sense that portals and new item
Oh,
forms,
right.
etc., are complex. It's not like one
Yeah,
page front and back and you're in business.
right, right. And I think the other side of that is that you know, retailers are busy. We're busy. Brands are busy. Distributors are busy. Everybody's busy, right? So one of the real challenges is that almost nobody has enough time to sit down with everybody and explain step by step how do you
No,
submit into new seasons? What do you do on the new seasons board? What do you do on this Whole Foods form? What does this column mean? What are you supposed to put here? So there's an advantage to understanding how to prepare just the paperwork because a lot of accounts, your paperwork won't get through the process if it's filled out incorrectly or if it's missing something that needs to be there. So, it's a huge part of this industry, and uh, you know, there's no substitute for having a great relationship with the decision maker, right? If you have that, that's phenomenal. You're gonna get some extra care, some extra patience, which is great. But at the end of the day, this is an industry that's based on data, it's based on numbers, it's based on information, and there's a
right.
million things that you have to do all throughout the process so that everything works. And that's that you have the whole industry has to be efficient or as efficient as possible to work properly.
That's
Great.
great insight. And a couple things I want to highlight that you said, James, that I think our small emerging brand audience needs to hear. And one is when we first started, we interviewed a bunch of buyers. And I remember one of the buyers telling Bruce and I, you would be surprised how many brands don't make it to the shelf, but because they can't fill out the paperwork correctly or on
Yeah,
time when I need it to make the decision to set those items up.
yep,
You
that's
agree
right.
with? Yeah, it's
100%, 100%. Because you think about it on their side. This buyer. Let's take an account like in my neighborhood up in the Seattle area. There's an account called Hagen. It's a specialty division of Albertsons. It's 15 stores. Well, they have 4 or 5 buyers. So they have some staff covering these things, but you look at the long list of categories that each of these people have, and they have thousands of products that they're responsible for. And their job isn't just to find new products. Their main job is to make sure that their shelves are filled, that there's promotions running, that the stores are executed. That's their main job. So their part-time job is to review the thousands of submissions that come into them each year and make decisions about it and taste it and think about it. That's their part-time job. So if you're not filling out the paperwork correctly, if your UPC is wrong, if you don't have the right pricing, if you don't have that buttoned up for them to move efficiently through the process, they just don't have time, even if
yeah.
even if
Yeah,
that's the
and the other
nature.
thing you don't want to do, small emerging brand audience, is be needy. Bruce talks about this a lot. So, you don't want to be calling the buyer's assistant 10 times a day or a week saying, not sure what, this GTIN number is. Can you explain to me what that is? You're doomed, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's
absolutely. Yeah, it's well, you think about any relationship based business, right? You tend to spend time with people who, make your life easier and
Mhm.
better, and you work well together. I mean, I like working with people that I like. Buyers are the same, like they like working with people who make their job easy by taking steps to learn about their store, to ask other people how to fill something out first, so
Yeah,
it's fundamental, it's really
absolutely.
fundamental.
And the third thing you said that I really liked, and I'm going to play on this, is your inside sales offering. Because if I'm a small emerging brands, and this is what Bruce and I recommend, and I know you'll agree, if you're a brand in the Northeast in the Boston area, you've got a great offering to say, let's start with these independent stores. You're already going to the farmers market or doing
Yeah,
local events. Start small, get into some independent stores, get into 10, 15, 20 stores, and make sure
yeah.
your brand is successful. And so I think your inside sales offering is fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you. And we're not doing anything. This isn't like we've invented a new rocket ship here. This is not this is blocking and tackling fundamentals of sales, talking to an independent store and placing your product in. And this gets to also, does it make sense to work with a partner like us? And there's a lot of brands that you don't need to. You don't need to hire a company like us. If you can do the sales steps of this industry and you understand that and that's something you're good at, you can do it. You don't need to hire somebody. But a lot of people don't like cold calling. They're just not comfortable with it or they haven't trained to do it. It's not something that they've, maybe you're an operations specialist, right? And that's where your comfort is, and that's where your knowledge is, and that's where you're bringing unique value into the industry. But maybe the idea of going out and pitching your product to somebody that you don't know is terrifying. And that's where that inside sales group that can solve lots of these problems. There's all kinds of ways to use that. We've done this with local brands that just want sample introductions in their local market. So we'll call out to some stores and we'll say, hey, we've got this awesome new CMOS gel. It's local to you. Could we drop off some samples sometime next week? A lot of stores just say, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, come on by. We'll be free on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. We don't have any deliveries, so those would be great days. Awesome. So we can tee up that opportunity, and all of a sudden, the founder who's terrified of sales, but maybe knows all about CMOS gel and all the benefits, and they have this great unique formula and new flavors. Now they have this warm introduction that they can walk into a store that's expecting them. They know, it's not going to be so cold anymore. They're going to go in, they're going to ask for Ken, the buyer, and he's going to say, "Oh, thanks for coming by. Yeah, I talked to yeah, this is awesome. I've wanted to bring in a CMOS gel, and the fact that it's local is terrific." So we can just sort of there's
Mhm.
all sorts of ways to use that group, and it can be for accounts, brands big and small.
And I
Well,
think the other side, and then I'll let Bruce jump in, is we've met founders who think that sales is easy and that they can do it. And and that's certainly not the case. Bruce, wouldn't you agree?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again, before we dive into the whole area of representation, a couple of other things you said, James. I mean, while selling and dealing with buyers is not reinventing fire, you have to be good at a couple of things. You have to be incredibly detail oriented. You have
Mhm.
to do what you say you're going to do. You need to do it on time. You need to
Mhm.
troubleshoot like crazy and make fast decisions, because if you're small and difficult to do business with, you're dead. You're
Yeah,
dead because you're not big enough
Mhm.
yet to move the needle. So that
that's
buyer
right.
is not sitting there. I'm going to be a drama queen here. They're not sitting here going, "Oh my God, I'm not getting any liquid Tide this week. That's going to really hurt me." They're like, "Hey man, Bruce's awesome skin cream is out, but I guess I'll miss those 8 pieces per store per month, and
Right,
they don't need me." Tracy,
right.
let's dig into representation.
Yeah. So, James, talk to us about when a brand should consider hiring a broker or a sales agency. At what point in the growth process does a founder really need to say, I can't I need help. I can't do this. I really do need to hire somebody.
Yeah. I think the greatest gift is really, truly knowing yourself, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. And that I've found that very, personally to be very hard to do. It's taken me a long time to come to grips with, my unique strengths and weaknesses. And I was insecure and awkward as a kid. It took me a lot of time to reflect honestly about what I was good at and what I'm not. I'm a terrible hirer of people. I just believe people. I just think like, oh, this person is awesome. They told me they're a great salesperson. This is great. We found a great salesperson. It's like, so now our hiring process has evolved because I know that I'm not good at that. That's not my gift. And I think that's where you have to start as a brand thinking about representation is you really have to know, am I good at sales? To your point, like there is a lot to it. Have I sold successfully in the past? Do I understand this industry and its unique differences? And a lot of people don't. A lot of people think they do.
Right.
So it's really starts with that honest reflection because truly, if you are good at sales and you understand the industry, you maybe don't need to hire a broker so early on. That might be the area that you operate within your business very successfully. But if you're coming to this industry from fashion or finance or technology or operations or any one of a number of different industries, I would say that there are arguments to be made to hiring some level of sales support even very early on, whether that's somebody to ask questions of, a fractional salesperson who's a trusted partner who you can pay a little bit of money for some expert advice that's going to steer you around the landmines. But then when you look at a company like ours, like our inside sales group might make sense also at a very early stage. You might do 25 or 30 what we call connects a month. The connect means that we talk to the decision maker at an account about your product. We charge $13 per connect. So it's a few $100s. You could test out to see if hotels are a good fit for you, or if natural grocery stores are a good fit for you, or if C stores are a good fit for you, or if acupuncturists are a good, so there's, we can call fair accounts. So you might do something like that. After you get to 50 or 100 or 150 doors, and you maybe have a local chain that you set up, and maybe you have a local distributor, that's where I think it starts to make sense to hire a true fractional salesperson or a partner like us. You sort of want to have a personal experience of like, where does your brand play in the market, and have some local success. And that's where I think then we can start to grow that. But also, when you've had that experience yourself, you understand a little bit about what it takes. You understand the timelines. You understand that, if you hire a partner like us, we're going to work hard. We're going to do our best, but that's still not going to change the fact that Whole Foods might review your category every 2 years. So there are certain things that a sales partner is not going to solve. But I do think it really depends on who you are and what your strengths are, when you bring in sales.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that you said that's good about, starting small and starting with inside sales is you can test and learn a little bit, on a small scale. So if you do fail
Yeah,
or stumble, it's not a big deal. And the big
yeah,
thing that Bruce talks a lot about is you're testing out your logistics because you may have never shipped
yeah,
cases to a retailer, and you
right,
don't want to start with Walmart or Target. You want to start in your
right,
local area and start with a Hagen's or, somebody like that, and make
yeah.
sure that you can actually do it. It's not as easy as people think, correct?
Yeah, that's right. And you want to make a good first impression too,
Yes.
especially with these key accounts. So, there's so many things that a brand has to think about. And I empathize with them, to ingredients and packaging and design and sourcing and logistics and production and pricing and all promotional strategies, all these different things. But from a fundamental standpoint, your business relies on cash flow and it relies on
Mhm.
sales, and you have to figure out what works. And to your point, it's much better to make your mistakes, and you will make them, on a smaller account that's local, that's gonna say, gosh, you have a 24 pack. I just, we don't have room on shelf. You think you could switch this down to maybe like a 6 or an 8 pack? Like we could get 6 of these on shelf. You know,
Right.
I, you learn that early on. You're not gonna wonder why, you know, you're not getting a response from Kroger on something that should have been solved long ago.
Right. So a follow-up question is, how is Good? Talk to us a little bit about how Good Now is maybe different from a broker.
Yeah, and there, I always my old joke, my dad joke has been, brokers make you broker, and there are stories of that, but uh, the big difference, right, is the broker model tends to be pretty much one size fits all, right? Like if you're a Kroger broker, you are there to present items into Kroger, and you
Mhm.
are there to know Kroger systems, and you're in Cincinnati, and you're gonna go and you're gonna see them, you're gonna do all the things that with Kroger specifically, right? But a company like us, which is a bit more of a broad-based generalist sales partner for you, is gonna look at your business and say, you know, gosh, have you thought about like going into the fitness space a little bit? Because I could see, rock climbing gyms and university gyms being a great fit for your product, and we can have a sort of a consultative partnership approach, which is very high touch point. I meet with all of our brands, every 2, 3 weeks at a minimum. So we're just talking constantly. We're always sharing updates about things that we're working on. We're hearing about new products. We're suggesting ideas. We're talking about pricing. We're talking about the results of the last trade show. So a consultative partner like us is going to help you grow your business from a much more comprehensive space versus the sort of laser focused, we work on this one account. Now, if you just want to get into Meyer, by all means, hire a Meyer broker that's embedded there. They're probably going to have more knowledge about
Hmm.
Meyer and all the individual people than we are, but if Meyer is just maybe one of 100 accounts, that it could be Meyer, but you might also be interested in Lenz and Byerly's. You might also be interested in, HEB in Central Market, or you might be interested in, you know, Clark's up in the Vale Valley, or Natural Grocers Vitamin Cups, so we can sort of take a more holistic approach to your business, and I think offer a more a more well thought out overall retail strategy.
Right. So you're really recommending, and kind of a follow-up to that, there's account specific brokers out there,
Hmm.
Target, Walmart,
Yeah.
CVS. And so if you're a brand thinking about that, but
Hmm.
then you have, you guys and Good Now,
Yeah.
what counsel would you give somebody?
I would say, we're always about whatever is going to make you most successful as the brand. So I'm going to be totally transparent about where our strengths and weaknesses are. Our biggest strength is the natural channel. There's not a natural retailer that we don't work with in the country of any significance. So, we're going to start there. But, if you've already got, a great partner who calls on the fresh market and Earth Fare, and you've worked with them for 4 years and you really like them and trust them, great. We'll just work around that. There's a million other things that we can be doing with our time for you.
Mhm.
So my approach is always to say, like, let's meet you where you're at, and that's the nice thing about our company, where, unlike a standard broker, we don't take in competitive products. So we only work with really one brand. Uh, I would say one brand per category. Sometimes there's a couple brands in a category if they're differentiated, and so I'm very transparent with our brands about that. I'm going to say, hey, we're taking in this other brand into our portfolio. It's somewhat similar to you. I wanted to show it to you. We were thinking you were different because of this and this. How do you feel? Um, so I could tell you then the whole story behind any of our brands. I could tell you their founding story. I can tell you about the products. I just know them more intimately. And so
Right.
that, I think, also, versus a standard broker, especially the bigger brokers that have hundreds of items, they tend to have like a brand manager who might be your one point of contact, but the rest of the team might know some things about you, they might not. We just have a different sort of smaller number of total brands so that we can really be your
Mhm.
true partner.
And I think the thing that I liked what you said is it's not one size fits all. So you're
Mhm.
very customized in your approach. Would you agree?
Yeah,
For the
yeah,
brand?
absolutely. Yeah, we have brands that are, our largest brand is a couple billion-dollar company that's owned by a many tens of billion-dollar company, and on down to, you know, the smallest of the mom and pops, right? So people are different, and at the end of the day, everybody in the natural channel wants to probably get eventually on some level into Whole Foods and
Right.
Sprouts and natural grocers and Fresh Market and
Right.
maybe Kroger and maybe Publix. So some of our brands we're working on those actively because they're ready and it's the time for that. And some of our brands we're working on, Earth Fare and
The smaller
maybe the
guys.
the smaller
Growing
guys.
into it, growing into
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah. So Bruce,
Yes. So James, tell us a little bit about this new platform for brands you've launched called Harvest Hub.
Yeah.
What is it and how does that help brands?
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I one of the real challenges, right, for a company like us is that we have staff and we have to pay our staff. So we have to charge something. And we don't charge a whole heck of a lot. A few $1,000s a month is a lot for a lot of brands, right? So for emerging brands, folks that don't have even that bandwidth yet, how do you do this professionally? So our answer to this is Harvest harvesthubcpg.com. And so what we're doing is we're taking publicly available information. You can find all of this on Zoom Info or Apollo, or if you're on the New Seasons vendor portal, or if you know where to look, you can find this information. But what we're doing is we're putting it all together. So if someone wants to submit into natural grocers, they can go in and they can look at the form that what's the submission form? Who do I send it to? Oh, here's the new item email. What are all the fields in it? Oh, I'm going to email and ask for some support in filling this out. So we can help brands at a very reasonable cost do submissions to the right person at the right time in the right way with the right form during the right category review efficiently and professionally. And if you have questions, you can ask for support. You can pay for an hour or two of consulting, if you need it to do your Whole Foods form properly and have somebody who knows look it over and say, yeah, this is right, but all, you forgot your prime affinity, here. And I noticed that you said you do 3 demos a quarter. What happens if you get into 60 stores? Are you ready to do 180 demos every quarter? Because that's what you're saying right here. So that's what Harvest Hub is. It's an online tool where you can go and you can access this information. We have 150,000 accounts in it. We've got 70 or 80,000 contacts. You can look up UNFI accounts in Florida, or you can look up, Crown Pacific accounts in Seattle, or any number of things from pet food to acupuncturists to hotels to retail stores. It's a great tool for being able to do your sales outreach in an efficient way.
So folks, a couple of things here, and you've heard it before. If you're new to CPG and you're thinking of going to brick and mortar or expanding from where you may already be, every retailer has a review schedule. If you're
Yes.
really new, you're asking, Bruce, what is a review schedule? Each part of the store is divided into categories. Each category has a buyer. Many buyers have more than one category, but these different categories, whether it's analgesic or canned soup or, better for you snacks, they usually will review their category only one time a year. And
Mhm.
as James alluded to earlier in the discussion, some retailers, if they don't think there's been enough innovation, they won't even review it every year. Okay, because it's expensive to have all your stores reset. Again, if you only have 6 stores, you have less money to pay people to reset 6 stores. If you're Walmart with 4,000 plus, that's incredibly disruptive. So the value of knowing when these reviews is really important, because when you go in there, you need to have your deck buttoned up, you need to have retail ready packaging, you need to have your supply chain identified. And if you're not quite ready, they're not going to see you, and consider cutting you in, which means moving you onto the shelf off schedule, unless you're like a Procter or a Nestle and you're willing to pay an uber premium to have them reset off schedule. And they will send you that entire bill, not part of it. They'll send you all of it. So I just wanted to make sure, James, that people understood, especially the newer folks, that the review schedule is critical. Not only the timing, but knowing exactly who to reach out to.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, Tracy, you're up.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've seen a lot of brands, James, come and go. So what are the mistakes you've seen brands make? What are the top
Oh
three
gosh.
mistakes that you
Uh,
see brands make in the sales process? Whether that's,
uh,
I'll give you a little hint, maybe where to go first, understanding what it takes, like we've been talking about, to go to brick and mortar,
yeah.
pricing, you know, what
Yeah.
what's your give us your top two oops that you've seen just many brands make.
Gosh, that's a tough one. I think the not understanding your product market fit is number one. And the product market fit is a big word. This is like basically where your product belongs on shelf. If you have a product that has really conventional looking packaging and no certifications, but you're pitching it to Erewhon and all the top natural retailers, that's sort of, they're going to look at that and say, you don't really understand. That's not a product for us. That's a product for, Albertsons maybe, or somebody else. So
Mhm.
it's really not understanding that product market fit. And that starts, with going into the stores that you're looking at pitching in, especially your local stores. You go in and look at the shelf, look at what your competition is. If you're asking a retailer to put in your product, you're asking them to take off something else. So what is it? What are you better than? How are you bringing incremental additional revenue to that category? Because stores, they're going to make $10 a week off of one product, and you're going to slot in and make $10 a week off of your product. To the store, that's not, there's not really any value in that. That's just a bunch of work for no additional value.
Right.
Are you going to be a product
Incrementality
incrementality?
is what the buyer wants. Bruce always
Yeah.
gives an example of, if you're a premium skincare brand, you probably don't want to go to Dollar General.
Yeah,
Even
exactly.
even though they have 18,000 stores and you think, "Oh my gosh, this would be awesome. Look at all the distribution I can get," but
Yeah.
you're not going to sell anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. And I think it ties into another thing that I see a lot, which is not having a different strategy for different stages of your growth. A lot of brands come in and they hear about the successes and they hear, "Oh, I need spends data, or I need, something that, yeah, you might need that in 2 or 3 years when you're looking to go from 300 stores to 2,000 or something. Maybe you do need some data at that point to tell a story, to go outside your region, but you maybe don't need that right up front. You maybe just need to get your product into some local distribution, some local accounts, and that's a different strategy. That's a different approach. And I think probably the other thing, that I really stress a lot is having a multi-legged stool if you can. In this industry, we saw what happened with food service when COVID hit. That was a really good time to hire a food service rep. I'll tell you that. And if your whole strategy was based around food service, then you had to rapidly retool or lose your business. So if you can have a retail format, but then you can sell a food service format, or you can sell, what's your D2C strategy? What's your online strategy? Do you have a bulk strategy? Are you producing product yourself, or are you having it co-packed? If you're producing it yourself, can you do some local private label? A lot of like smaller chains want to work with their local partners for that. So if you can have some different sort of legs to your revenue and your growth, that can really really help a lot, because a lot of brands don't even see retail as their main focus. It's just sort of their additional leg of their stool that supports their D2C and their online business, and who knows what else. But they like to be in retail because they have customers that shop online that happen every now and then to walk into a store, and they want to see it there. So that multi-legged stool is another thing that I think is neglected. Um, by some brands, and that's to their
Yeah.
detriment.
And one of the other things you mentioned was what I call alternate channels, whether that's
Mhm.
airlines or, bodegas in New York or things like that. And
Yeah,
I think that's something that a lot of brands overlook. You don't want to have too many strategies, but I think
yeah,
people overlook some of the things that um, can be meaningful.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think maybe the last thing that's really foundational is your financials. A lot of brands don't understand their margins, and the difference between markup and margin. You'll hear these terms tossed around a lot. You have to have a healthy margin on your manufacturing side so that you can support all these steps throughout the process. And so if you understand your financials within your company, and you have a solid uh, allocation for marketing, for growth, for promotions, for free fills, that sets you up for a lot of success. That if you're just guessing, you could be losing money with every additional store that opens up. And so I think that's something.
No,
Uh,
those are all great points. And to build on what James is saying, folks, you've heard on other episodes, you have to understand if you're going to brick and mortar, you have to understand all the people that are going to touch your product and they're going to take their bite, right? So if you go through it, just you might think, here, my product costs $3. I'm going to sell it for 6, and the retailer might mark it up by $2. Well, one, every retailer has their own margin structure by category that people like James can help you understand, so it's not a surprise. And the other thing Tracy and I talk about is building a super simple spreadsheet, which I'm sure James and his firm have in their toolbox. It's your cost with the margin you want to make, then a distributor markup plus the retailer margin requirement. That equation will drive what the price is at the shelf when your shopper goes in. And if that lands you in the ballpark of your category, you might be okay. But if your category average selling price is like $7.99 and yours is now $11.79, oops.
yeah,
Or you
yeah,
better have one hell of a story. The other thing, James touched on this and Tracy did too. All the buyers, they're interested in their category performance much more than your brand performance. So James's example of they put your product in and the one they're replacing was $10 per store per week, and that's what you do. They've just done a ton of work for nothing incremental and extra for them. So
yep,
just lots of things to keep in mind. And the other error Tracy and I have heard, you guys have all heard it, listeners from other founders, a mistake they all wish they could have a do-over on is when the entrepreneur is getting started, they're so psyched to start selling. They wake up one morning and they've got like 6 or 7 different pricing deals, and they have a mess on their hands because it's like, why does James get one price, Tracy has one, and Bruce has one when we're all buying, the 12 dozen gluten-free cookies? What did you do to yourself? So
right.
really taking the time to think through your pricing is critical. All right, James. So Tracy, who usually wears his Grim Reaper outfit when he asks for errors and mistakes, I'm going to ask you, are there some common, maybe they're not common because then everyone would do it. What are some excellent early moves that you've either seen emerging brands make or you've coached them and they've listened? Like, what are a couple of things that, gosh, if you can just get out of the starting gate by doing these 2 or 3 things well, life
Right.
will be at least a little easier. It's never easy, but it'll be a little easier.
Yeah, yeah. I love that saying, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so a lot of emerging brands are planning around a faster execution than what the industry is likely to support. And so those brands that have instead a slow approach, Elliot Begoon talks about this a lot in his newsletters, where tardigrades are his examples. And tardigrades are these creatures that can like survive for eons floating in an asteroid in space. So they're extremely resilient. And
Elliot's
so,
a friend of the show, James. He's been
oh,
on.
great, great,
Yeah.
great, great. Yeah, he's got a great position on this, and I think he's spot on with the resilience, designing your business for resilience. And And that means saying no a lot. That means,
Mhm.
looking at an opportunity squarely, understanding how it fits in with your priorities. And if it doesn't, saying no to it. And that's hard when you've got a business that you're trying to grow. Maybe you're paying a company like us, right? And like we bring an opportunity to you, and it's like the big opportunity this month. And, to say no to that hurts because you're forcing yourself to wait and pay more money, somebody else like us to hopefully bring another big opportunity to you next that's a better fit. But saying no is important, and planning for resiliency, planning for slower growth. Because if it happens fast, that's great. It tends to happen fast when there's a perfect product market fit. So, we've been part of a lot of these where, we worked with High Key Snacks back in 2018 and 2019. And I think John Gibbs said that we were part of growing $65 million worth of business over 18 months, which is great. I can't say that was because we used a secret sales handshake or said the magic words to the buyer. It was because, we did our job, but the product was a great fit. And so it really comes down to planning for resiliency, planning for things to go slowly in retail. Maybe it goes faster in direct to consumer. Maybe it goes faster in food service. That's great. Uh, but if you plan for it to take a long time in retail and you're delighted when it happens faster than you were expecting, that's a much, much stronger place to be. The other thing is building a velocity story. Brands that are focused on driving velocity, making your product sell well, have a great retail partner that's thrilled with your brand. Now the other retailers in your market and beyond are going to look at that and say, "Oh, I want that. That product's doing really well. That's great velocity." Now all of a sudden you're desired, and they're asking to bring you on rather than us pushing them to try and take you on to demonstrate it. So you get that account going, you get that velocity going, put your energy into that. Spend 6 months, spend a year, spend 2 years building a great velocity story with some key accounts so that all the next steps after that are easier.
Yeah, that's a
Great
really great
advice.
point. Some of the sales teams I've had the privilege of leading or working with, we used to call those pull accounts. If you
Hmm.
could do a good job with accounts that have influence, they will pull others along because
Yeah,
they'll be like, why is James doing so well there? I need some of that action over here.
yeah, yeah,
So to your point, without, doing things that you can't replicate on a national theoretical level or regional level, like you can't overpay James to carry your account and drive it if you can't do that everywhere else, because you'll bankrupt yourself or you'll look really good in
right.
an orange jumpsuit picking up trash along the highways. So gosh, that's really great counsel.
Yeah,
Tracy?
absolutely. So, kind of rounding third and heading home here, James, with our time together. But tell us who's had
Yeah,
the greatest influence on your career and why.
yeah, that's a great question. Uh, I've like many people, I've had the chance to work with a lot of really phenomenal people. So it's a long list, including people that I work with today within our company. I learn as much from our team as probably I hope they learn working here and through their experiences. But I've had some great bosses over the year. But I think honestly, and this might be a little cliche, but it's my parents. My parents, have always supported me. They've always encouraged me to take risks. They believe I can do anything. And I think that, especially for this type of business, like small business startups where you fail. I mean, I failed. I went bankrupt, in 2019. I had to move back in with my parents. Like, got a job washing dishes at the local Pine Cone Cafe in my hometown. I hyped my high school friends coming in to eat breakfast. There I am, like 2 years before, had, everything in life and suddenly didn't. And, they still believed in me. They still supported me through that. And I've been able to come back. And so I think the it's got to be my parents. They're the ones who made that happen.
Well,
Love that.
that's a great answer that we hear a lot, which is frankly refreshing that,
Yes.
we've had no one say, well, I looked at what my parents did and I knew I had to do the opposite. All right.
Yeah.
All right, James. So this is a critical question.
Yeah.
Who is your favorite sports team, band, or brand, and why do
Mm.
you support them? I realize you probably can't say brand; it would be bad for current and future business. So
Yeah.
work with
We
us on
love
the other two, maybe.
we love all of our children. We do love some of them more than others, but we love all of our children. I mean that one's it's the Talking Heads, just because I'm a child of the '80s and their music is awesome. So that's a simple one for me.
I love that. I
You
love
may
that.
find yourself representing
Yeah,
lots of brands.
that's
All right.
exactly right.
So James, why don't you tell the folks a bit about how they can reach out to you, how they could learn more about your firm, and maybe it would also be helpful to just save some time. Talk about the geography you serve. Like, do you do bodegas on Key West, or are you kind of a West Coast guy?
So we've got about 25 people on our team. So we're neither the largest nor the smallest company. I would say we do a good job of offering a tremendous value for small to mid-sized brands. A lot of our brands are sub 3 million, sub 5 million in value. We have some that are bigger, but we really do work with it. You couldn't name a natural retailer of any significance that we don't actively work with. And that could be, again, from like Earth Fare and the fresh market, all the way up here to PCC and Met Market, to Erewhon, to Lassen's, to Nugget, and a lot of the conventional ones too. Rayleigh's, Kroger, Albertsons. We had the Fancy Fair show just last week. We have a booth where we exhibit lots of our brands, and we had 280 individual buyer meetings at the show, and
Wow.
that was everybody from, we had about 25 or 30 people from Whole Foods. We had several of the Sprouts leadership folks. We had, United in Texas. We had Lassen's. Lots and lots and lots of retailers come through. So I would say, our coverage is really national, but again, 25 people. We're not in every little bodega and every store every week. I mean, this is I would say we're doing a good job of covering the key accounts, but then we have the inside sales team, right? So like if your goal is to like pitch into like 50 bodega style markets in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, we can call those. So we might not be walking into the store, but we can talk to the store level decision maker and say, hey, this is, James from um, ABC Kefir Water. We're growing into the Miami market. We're a local Florida brand. I'd love to, send some samples your way and see if it's a good fit for your store. Are you interested in trying that out and build the business that way? So you can contact me at james@goodnowfoods.com. My cell phone's 206-250-7722. Both are on our website. I will meet with anybody and answer questions and talk. And I want to see this industry continue to grow with lots of new brands, lots of new innovation, lots of clean products. We're very passionate about natural, clean ingredient products. So the more that we can support that in any way, whether that's you hiring us or whether that's just a question that we can answer, we're happy to do it.
Well, that's great. And in the soon to be launched Road to Retail apparel store, one of our t-shirts, especially after going to a show like last week about entrepreneurs, the t-shirt just says Road to Retail, and on the back it says all gas, no brakes. I mean, to meet all these entrepreneurs is so uh exciting. I mean,
Yeah,
regardless of the potential red flags, they know stuff's going to be hard. They know it's going to be, not a layup, and they're just like,
yeah,
yeah, last week totally sucked, but this is a new week, and here's
right.
what I'm doing, and you should probably get out of my way. And I'm all
Exactly.
right, James. Well, this has been fantastic. Tracy, bring us home with the big finish.
Absolutely, James. You were awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Thank you, audience, as well. Please continue to follow us on our Spotify and Apple podcast. Also, we have a website, www.roadtoretail.com, and all of those links are in our posts. We post every Tuesday on LinkedIn and then all of those other podcast channels. So thank you again, James. I really appreciate it. And thank you, audience. And Bruce, as always, great to see you in another great episode of Road to Retail.
Thanks again, James. That was great. Good luck out there, folks.
Thank you.